Hi! This video is all about my art journey. It's been a solid year since I started a webtoon dedicated to documenting the process of me becoming a newbie artist to me being able to draw from imagination and creating the short stories and comics and animations and other stuff that I want later on. But I'm still building up to that. So let's find out how it's going. The first thing I did to learn how to draw is draw thousands of faces. First, I was working out of a how to draw manga book, and then I was looking up Pinterest tutorials and YouTube tutorials, and then I tried to develop my own style based off of comic books and developing how to draw the head in different perspective using different styles. I got a few books from the Loomis books, and then I just kind of went crazy with buying a bunch of art books. But once I got down the style in which I wanted to draw faces and at least a line art, going for a look in between manga and comic books, I went to draw the next most difficult thing: hands. I then proceeded to look at my left hand and then draw that a bunch of times, and then look at other people's tutorials on how they draw hands. They make note on where the thumb goes, where fat collects into the fingers, all the good things about the anatomy and stuff. And then got a little bit more intricate, spending my time drawing hundreds more until being able to quickly draw hands, and then moving on to arms and the torsos and what connects the hands to the body, all of which I spent my time over the weeks doing many different chapters, which you can find in this webtoon, Find Arts and What Ifs. I've gained the self-discipline to be able to update it weekly now. My other content will also follow suit as I progress in my skill levels. And so after being able to draw all these hands and torsos and bodies, I moved on to being able to draw the full human figure. Starting with learning the muscular structure and skeletal structure and where the shadows go. A lot of these practices and sketches were based off of references I got from the internet and looking at tutorials by people like David Finch and Proko, and doing my own figure drawing and gestural drawing and practicing what shapes build up the concepts of being able to draw everything, given the right perspective, proportions, anatomy, and whatnot. And thus my skills began to advance as I drew figures and moved on past drawing people into drawing clothes and adding shadows and lines of detail, making my art a little bit more in depth. And this was the time where I saw the call to action thing and started working on my own comic, seeing my skills ready to begin my first one-shot attempt. And so I began working on character designs. And I believe trying to teach something is also a good way of trying to learn it. And so I made a closed tutorial, still trying to hone down the way I finalize my line art before, I start to color and learn color. At this point, I was still pretty scared overall of coloring. And so, mostly for the comic, I chose this watercolor style. I didn't get to use a lot of the sketches from the comic, so I posted them here in this progress sketch to show you what wasn't used and what was used. Like a lot of character scenes, like this entire layout and fight scene, a lot of background sketches. A lot of these are like pre-sketches to build up or storyboard points of a fight scene that never made it into final sketch. This one's just, character sheet pretty much. And then there's the background characters that never got put in because I couldn't draw backgrounds to the level I wanted at all. Nor could I draw architecture. So, spending all this time drawing people did not lead to being able to draw comics to the best of my abilities. So it was a struggle to learn how to draw backgrounds, perspective, and architecture and stuff like that. And so these sketches took at least 10 to 12 hours just to draw on their own, and I still was pretty unhappy with the layout design. And then after all of that, there was the color to deal with. All in all, I don't think it was that bad. So here's some of my favorite sketches and panels from the comic. Enjoy. The one thing I'm trying to develop differently is how I visualize my fight scenes, especially in like a vertical format. So this is like the first test of how I'm doing that. Surely the next thing I make will be better. But here's some sketches that I've finished over the year. This one's just full of expressions, ears, eyes, noses, and faces. Truly showcasing how far I've come in being able to draw faces alone, and now I can pretty much draw them proportionally from imagination. And here's some sketches full of dragons that once supposed to be a book cover in the future. A lot of these are just random sketches, but practices for things. Except for this one. This one's just lewd. And then here are the dragon drawings. I think the reference for that, the one with the knife, is this person. And here's some of my favorite heads that I drew from the first 100 heads challenge I completed. I'm working on finishing a 1,000 heads challenge with my new art style, working on portraits of content creators and people who are inspirational to me and stuff like that. Though by now I've definitely drawn over 1,000 fucking faces, that's for sure. I did this challenge just because drawing traditionally is a lot bigger of a challenge than drawing on, a digital platform where you can control Z and use the lasso tool and fill tool and stuff like that. And so from that point onward, I began going through the whole process again, this chapter being about beginner practices, this one pose being a reference to Death Note. Can you guess the character? The latest chapters have been about building up a foundation so I can draw everything. Meaning construction sketches, the foreground sketch layer, to nail down proportions, anatomy, gestures, where the shadows lay, all the other stuff. It's how I draw. I draw everything in a red layer, and then on top of that, I draw the final layer. And so for the next chapter, I'm just using one layer to sketch everything and anything. So eventually I can draw everything I want from imagination, from animals to people to dragons to architecture. And my first comic that I'm starting up right now in concept art is a black and white manga style story called Color Wars. But here I'm building everything out of shapes. These were sketches based on a book on how to draw everything and then expanded upon into full-on gestural studies and practice. In doing so, I realized a bunch of things I wouldn't have otherwise. I feel like working on a time restraint has also helped me draw faster, so a lot of these have been timed with under 1 minute for people. And then I tried my first ever material study, figuring out that after getting the foreground of the construction, shading is also the key. And so I gathered the strength to get over my fear of color and fear of not using multiple layers. And so I colored, and I do say I'm pretty impressed with the results, especially for the time giving. So I've begun exponentially expanding upon my concept art, and the next thing I create next week will be a new webtoon, just to build concept art in and not distract from the webtoon where I practice art in, called Find Worlds, which I'll eventually turn into an anthology series, similar to how this other webtoon, Fine Arts and What Ifs, will eventually turn into an anthology series based on the What Ifs part of the title. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed and are inspired by my quick art progression. It's been 1 year of actually trying to draw and learn how to draw. And here's all the books I have to assist with me, and I have not finished going through all of them, but I will before 2023.